What's up everybody, Tim Conley here, and we're going to talk about what it really takes to raise your rates between clients. If you're struggling to raise your rates or you just really want to just bump those numbers up on your next client, well then let's check it. We're going to talk about 3 ways to gain the authority necessary to raise your rates to levels that you desire, that gets you paid for the value you provide. And the third one is the most important, so be sure you stick around for that. And while you're sticking around, hit that like button. That's going to really help the channel grow. It'll help me out to keep helping you out. So let's get into it. Okay, the first thing in raising your rates is look like you are worth paying more money to. This is something that you're in marketing, you're in the creative world. If you want people to perceive you as valuable, you gotta look valuable. This doesn't mean you gotta come off being all professional, like, look at this mug. I don't look professional, but it's part of my hook. It's part of what gets me seen as somebody who thinks differently than everyone else in this space. And also, I just like looking like a hippie, I guess. Your brand identity is important, and I'm not talking about your logo, the name of your company, because no one's going to pay attention to that. No one's going to pay attention till you spend millions of dollars on brand building. What you need to do is focus on credibility indicators, the things that say you know what you're doing, the things that say you are able to do what you say you can do. So those things are like certifications, not necessarily the certification itself, but the fact that you have a reputable certification. This could be your education. You went to a great design school, or you got a marketing degree from a known college. Then those sort of things are good indicators, like, hey, this says I know what I'm talking about. But the best credibility indicators are things that are really controllable. Your case studies. If you develop case studies that look higher end, sure, you may have gotten paid just a few $1,000s for that particular client, but you don't have to make your case study look like you only got paid a couple $1,000s. You should make every project look like a bigger project. Not fake it, not lie. What you do is design it so it looks high end, so it looks premium. And you do this with your site. Make your site look premium. If you do photos or videos, make sure you've got a look. Make sure your lighting is on point. Make sure your audio sounds really good. If you do those things, you look better. You look more professional. When I'm on a sales call, you get to see my bookshelf. You get to see my personality. You get to see the things that I read. You get to see a little bit about who I am, and it influences the perception of my prospect. If they see a book that they've read that they like, or a book that they want to read, they're going to be excited about it. They're going to go, oh, this guy resonates with me. If they like motorcycles, they like to ride motorcycles, then they're going to be like, oh, that's pretty cool too. You've built your credibility indicators, and you still are having trouble raising your rates. Like, man, my stuff looks good. It talks about what my prospects care about, and they still don't want to pay me a higher fee. They still see me as someone who's just a vendor, not as an expert. So what you need to do is borrow some authority. Borrowed authority is incredibly powerful. I call this the Oprah effect. When Oprah had her show, she would bring on all these different experts that she would interview. And anytime they mentioned a product, millions of that product would be sold, like overnight. It was that incredibly powerful. And the thing is she was never an expert in any of those things that she interviewed on. What she was an authority. She was using these experts' authority, transferring their authority over to her, and her audience believed her recommendation. And I want you to use the exact same power. In previous videos, I've talked about how to increase your expertise. One of the things you do is you do research, and then you practice it, and then you teach it to other people. Easy, right? And you've got loads of platforms, free platforms, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, you name it. You can teach anything that you're learning to the rest of the world. And this is such a simple, easy, and completely controllable way to develop perceived expertise and perceived authority. In time, you'll actually become an expert. But one of the coolest, fastest ways of getting borrowed authority is to do like Oprah. Interview people. If you interview experts in your market that your prospects see as authorities, then you will borrow their authority. And you can put this content everywhere, and their authority transfers to you. If you do it right and get the right permissions, you got to get them to sign a release form saying you can use your interview in multiple media and their likeness, including their name, to be able to use it in this other media, then you will be able to publish all these interviews into a book form. You can use it as a lead magnet. You could use it as an actual book, put it on Amazon and sell it, and that'll build up your authority and your credibility. You can also create a course out of these interviews. There's so many things that you can do to develop greater authority out of interviews, besides just doing an interview, creating a podcast and sharing it out to the world. But that's still just sufficient. If all you wanted to do was interview people to borrow their authority and you didn't want to bother with creating all those other things, that's all you have to do. Interview them, put them on your podcast, put them on your YouTube channel, put them on LinkedIn, definitely send it out to your email list, and you will gain higher levels of authority. And here's another little trick with it. Make case studies out of those interviews. Don't just make a blog post, make a case study. Teach somebody out of that interview. When they see this expert talking to you, sharing their knowledge to you, and then you reposition that knowledge in a way that you're teaching the reader, the viewer, this is going to lock that authority into you. Your prospect will see that content and they will see you as the authority, not the person that you're borrowing authority from. So the third way of raising your rates is critically important. It's actually probably the only one that really matters. Out of all the ways of raising your rates, this one is it. It's your inner game. The things that you say to yourself, the way you perceive yourself, what is your self-worth? Most pricing is based on self-worth. Even in the product world, most of the pricing, at least the initial pricing, is based on self-worth. People look around and they see, oh, that price is the lowest one, that price is the highest one. I'll pick somewhere in the middle. Maybe a little on the lower side, maybe a little on the higher side, but they just pick something in the middle because they feel comfortable at that price. It has nothing to do with market dynamics. But entrepreneurs will tell you, oh, it's the market. I'm doing market rates. I'm setting market prices. No, they're not. Or they'll say, oh, people won't pay me more. They just won't do it. Well, that's a brand issue. That's a marketing issue, not a market issue. You need to figure out why people would pay more. And that's on you, not on your prospect. It's not your prospect to figure out the value you bring. It's on you to show them the value. And this all starts inside. It all starts with the words you say to yourself. If you start discounting before you ever get onto a prospect call, and I know a bunch of you have done it, where you're going to pitch, oh, I'm going to charge them $10,000 for this website. And then as it gets closer to the meeting, you start thinking, oh, but maybe they don't have $10,000, so I'll charge them $8,000. You just knocked off $2,000 and you've not spoken to the prospect yet. And you may even find that when you get into the conversation and they're like, no, $8,000 is too much. And you're like, okay, and you negotiate maybe down to $5,000 or $4,000. All because you were not confident in the value you brought. You were more concerned or more afraid of losing them than they were in losing the value that you provided. So here's some incredibly simple tips to start developing your confidence in selling at a higher rate. One is to just practice by yourself. Go stand in front of a mirror and practice saying your price. Practice saying a really high price without looking away, without stuttering. It's $10,000. You make sure you don't have any fluctuation. Just confidently say it's going to cost $10,000 or whatever your price is. Keep a poker face. Don't let them see that you're sweating. Don't let them see that your palms are sweaty, that your breathing is shallow, you're freaking out. You need to practice before you get into the situation. If you don't have any practice before you start pitching, you're going to fail. You're going to doubt yourself. And selling expertise is confidence. It's confidence in the value you can bring. Because if you don't have it, your prospect can't have it. After you've practiced in front of the mirror, guess what? It's time to record yourself doing a pitch. You don't have to do it with any person yet. You just go through what you believe the pitch is going to be like, how you think you're going to present your numbers. And when you come to the price, you look into that camera and you don't flinch. Now you've gotten a little practice doing that. You've reviewed your video and you're like, okay, I did still stutter. I did these other things. I'm still not fully confident, but let's take it to the next level. We're going to then role play. We're going to find a friend, a partner, a spouse, someone who is going to give a little pushback, is going to ask you questions, you're going to overcome objections, and you're going to confidently say this higher price to this person. And that person isn't just going to go, oh, that sounds good. And they're going to push back and you're going to have to defend your price. We're not going to just defend it like, oh, this is important because I'm this. No, you're going to defend it based upon the value that you give and based upon your procedures. Our system generates these results. If you want those results using our system, this is the price. We can negotiate terms. If you need payment plans, we can do that. We don't lower our price because this price is appropriate for the value we bring. That confidence isn't going to land every single account. You probably only have a 30 to 40% closing rate. If you have a 25% closing rate, you're doing pretty good. If you can get to 30 or 40%, that's fantastic. If you start getting well above 50%, your price is way too low and you need to pop that bad boy up. Guess what? After you practice, it's time to go live. It's time to bring your higher price to your next prospect. And don't flinch. You might lose that prospect and that's okay, but you have to get that practice in. If you don't practice pitching a higher price on your next prospect, the prospect's not going to volunteer a higher price. This is the way you raise your rates from client to client. While you're raising your rates, raise your finger to that like button, subscribe, share, and do all the socials. And I'll see you in the next video. Oh, before you go, check out this video on how to become an expert in 90 days. I mean, a real legit expert in 90 days or less. And we are done, son. Because these things, look at this. And they've just been sliding off my face.